Hi there, and welcome to Be a Global Citizen, the podcast that explores the concept of global citizenship through the lens of value-creating education. My name is Scott Bauer, and I'm a SOCA researcher and educator. I hope you find the discussion, stories, and insights on this podcast to be valuable and inspiring as we strive to become global citizens who are committed to living a contributive life. Enjoy.
Hello, greeting from New Jersey. My name is Dr. Herminio Perez, and I am the Assistant Dean for Campus Life and also an Associate Professor for the Restorative Department at Rutgers School of Dental Medicine. I have 3 degrees. Number 1 is going to be my dental degree as a dentist. Number 2 is going to have an MBA in healthcare system. And last but not least, a doctoral degree in education with a component of leadership and innovation from NYU.
Wonderful. Thank you so much, Dr. Herminio Perez. I'll just call you Herminio since we had the wonderful opportunity to connect in person. And it was just so joyful to be able to meet with you. You have such a calming presence about yourself, and you've done so much work, not just within dentistry, but also with your doctorate in education, being that you're at a dental school. So much of that is also in service of really connecting with your students, understanding the larger systems that are in place to ensure that they have the best outcomes learning-wise. And I'm just really excited to learn from a dentist. What is your perspective on fostering leaders for the future? And I think that, dentists sometimes get a bad rep. So I also want to make sure that everyone really understands not just the effort that goes into dentistry, but also the level of care that goes into it, because it's so vital. So wanted to pass it over to you, Herminio, to share a little bit more about what were some of the milestones that brought you to this moment, in the work that you're doing at the Rutgers School, and also why dentistry, why an education doctorate. You've already lived such a full life, and I just kind of want to learn more about some of the important stories that got you to where you are today.
Well, Scott, thank you so much for the invitation. And what I have to say is that when we are talking about dentistry, dentistry is a very unique profession. It comes from, oh my God, centuries of years ago, and it started as an apprenticeship. Then everybody that it was a dentist during those years, during those eras, they learned from each other. And even today, students are learning from each other and are learning with the mentorship of other dentists. When I said that it's a unique profession, I have to say that can be a little bit complicated because we have to learn through evidence-based, meaning we are reading books, we are learning the science of dentistry, we are learning how teeth are connected to the entire system of a human body and how that can be impacted. But also, we need to learn the anatomy of a tooth. Not only the anatomy of a body, but anatomy of the tooth. And then from there, we have to process that information and recreate or produce an actual tooth with your hands. Then it is a combination of art and science. And actually, one of the most important books in operative dentistry, when I say operative dentistry, it is the discipline in dentistry that when you're going to the dentist and you have a cavity and they have to open and remove that cavity, that is operative dentistry. Then one of the most important books in operative dentistry is called The Arts and Science of Operative Dentistry, which is one of the most beautiful books in terms of education in dentistry.
Wow. No, I mean, I love the way you speak about dentistry as mentorship, that there's this two-way exchange of knowledge passed down from long ago, but at the same time, really grappling with like, what are the needs of your patients right now, and how teeth are just one component of a much larger system, and everything is so interconnected. And I'm sure that it really there's probably still things that just truly fascinate you and bring awe to yourself. Oh, I'm just thinking like dentists being like, say ah, but like the awe in how amazing teeth are, that combination of the science and arts piece is really fascinating as well. I want to ask, like, what got you interested in dentistry in the first place?
Well, I have to say that that was the arts and science. Mostly the art, because the thing is that, trying to reproduce an actual tooth out of wax, or at some point people were reproducing teeth out of soap, bar soap, it was it was something really fascinating. And the thing is that in dentistry you have an actual connection with people, with the human side of people. I don't know if you experience that when you're going to your dentist and you sit in that dental chair. I don't know, probably something spark your conversation, and then you start talking to your dentist about what's going on in your life. Or you start asking your dentist how you're doing today. And then your dentist going to start asking you, how's your day? And then you're going to start talking about or your pets or your family members, or it is, the dental chair, it is almost like a psychologist chair in which everybody go in there and start talking to their dentist. Um, I'm lucky enough to be at a dental school, and in there, my role is to, and this is my personal role. My personal role is to shape ethically and professionally the new generation of dentists. And I'm really honored to do that. And I do that every single year for the past 13 years that I have been in dental academia. Out of my 23 years in dentistry, I have been honored to shape the new generation of dentists in terms of the profession and in terms of the ethical thinking, which is not an easy thing to do. But I see that the new generation of dental students are really open to learn more, and also they embrace what is to be an ethically and critical thinking when it comes to take care of the patient population. Um, I think that I mentioned it to you before that I have been. This is the year now, right now, that we start with the new class. Actually, the class of 2030, because dental school is for 4 years, 2030, and I have been doing a lot of sessions with them in which I discuss cases. I talk about the principles of dental ethics, and it's very interesting how this new generation, they open their eyes and say, "Oh my God, I never heard about this," or "This is something fascinating," or "Can you tell me more?" And it spark a lot of conversation amongst themselves.
Wow. No, I mean, well, first off, they're so lucky to have a professor like you to shepherd them through the long 4 years. But I also think right from the get go, right, year one, they're having these classes where they're thinking about the relationship they have with their patients. They're understanding the responsibility that they have ethically to serve them, to not squander, or betray their trust, and that
Mm-hmm.
what you are going to do in terms of like operating on their teeth will truly help them in the long run. And I really like what you shared about the dentist chair. There is something, I think it's the dentist chair. It's different from when you're sitting into like let's say you're going to get a haircut, right? Because it's
Mm-hmm.
way, for me, I would say, I don't know, I would say like there's definitely the potential of like opening up. But for me, I don't know, going to the dentist always felt very like nerve wracking. So
Mm-hmm.
sometimes it would be like, I'm just trying to like fill the emptiness, and I don't know what's all going to come out. Right. Whereas, when I'm at the haircut, like place, it's more kind of like, I don't know, like kind of easygoing. But then I think the relationships that you build within those spaces of trust are a little bit different. I feel like there's some nuance in it, but it's just different because my perception of the dentist's office, it's a little bit more complex than going to like the haircut place. Yeah, I don't know. Does that make sense?
Well, let me tell you something, and even that you mentioned that, and I don't know to what level was intentional. This is a historical fact. The first dentist, they were barber surgeons. Then, historically, people used to go to a barber to have their haircut and, taking care of their aesthetics. But also, if they need to have a tooth pulled out, they did it also in the chair of a barber. And then if you see that bar that is in there that have the red and white strip that goes like and spins, right? That looking like the red is going down. That means that when they were doing transfusion, that was the way that it looks. It looks like the blood was going down from one area that it was collected to the other one that it was going to the patient. And it's very interesting. Those are really historical facts that even you mentioned it. And I don't know if it was intentional, but the thing is that it is related to dentistry and the history of dentistry.
It was not intentional at all. What a wonderful coincidence, and I appreciate that history lesson. I wanted to ask you, since this sitting in that chair and opening up, and then having this conversation with your patient, it sounds like you find that to be a very important component to the overall experience, right, with the treatment and everything. Because I would imagine a calm patient is much easier to operate on than a overly anxious and kind of like hyperventilating one that's probably trying to close their mouth and everything's stressed. But I find when you're able to like win that trust and have that atmosphere of calm, it definitely imprints something on the patient. I'm wondering for yourself, like what was like one of the earliest memories you had of sitting in that chair as a patient? And what was the experience like, kind of like reversed?
Well, let me tell you something. I didn't went to a dentist until the age of probably 7 or 8. And then after that, I went back again to a dentist until the age of 10 or 11. Then, I was born in Puerto Rico from a very socioeconomical disadvantaged family, in which my mom and my father didn't have the opportunity to have the same education that I, thanks God, I accomplished. And it was like, there was no way to know what it was a dentist. There was no way to go to a dentist regularly, unless you had to go to a dentist through the public service, which in both cases, that was the case. I went to a dentist because I had a cavity on the, that was at the age of 8. And then the second time, it was because I needed a back cleaning. Then the thing is that those are the two reasons why I went to a dentist. And then, it was a different times. I think that the new generation have an opportunity to explore more what is dentistry than when I was growing up. But going back again to my family when I was growing up, even though that they didn't have the opportunity to study or going to colleges or even, high school, I think that they gave me something extremely important, and it was the value of education. They were telling me that, they can take away your clothes, they can take away your shoes, but they never can take away your education and your knowledge. And that's what I learned from them. And that was my, the way that I was moving forward in terms of my education. And it was very interesting after college. And I find out that I really like dentistry because of the combination of arts and science. I started exploring what kind of school is going to be the best school for me. And I got into a dental school. In there, I spent 4 years of my life, which is the time, this is the the curriculum takes 4 years. And then when I graduated from dental school, which I'm going to tell you, this is the truth. When I graduated from there, I didn't have any clue of the salary of a dentist. I didn't have any clue of the potential of a dentist. I just went there because of the passion of the arts and science and what I can do with that. I graduated from dental school, and then I did my first year of residency program in the South Bronx in New York. And in there, I found my mission. I found my mission because there was a lot of people that looks like me, that it was abandoned in the system, and they needed somebody to take care of their oral health needs. After that, I said like, I think that I'd like to be a hospital dentist. And then I stayed in there for another year. And then I did my second year as a hospital dentist. And then during that second year, I start like practicing chairside teaching. Then I was teaching the incoming residents how to do certain procedures. And you know what? I said like, I also like to teach. And then it was very interesting how to see that these new residents, they were doing an amazing job, and I was guiding them through that. Then I said, I'm going to stay in hospital dentistry. And then I stayed in the hospital for over 10 years. In there, I learned and I developed the skill to teach chairside. Also, my passion to give to the community that looks like me and not that looks like me was there because it was a very diverse population. And I found that that was really fulfilling. And I learned from that experience that when you are using your knowledge as a resource for others for good, that's when you feel happiness. That's when you're having the reward of taking care of other people. While I was in there, and I think that I'm going right now, I'm talking to you about my educational path. I want to do more in the hospital setting. And I said, okay, Herminio, this is what you're going to do because you want to provide them with beautiful smiles. We dentists, we want to change the world. And probably this is going to sound really cliche. We want to change the world one smile at a time. And then I went to NYU and I did a program on aesthetic dentistry. At that time, aesthetic dentistry was starting many years ago. We're talking about, 17 to 18 years ago. And I learned in there the art of creating beautiful smiles with intentions to provide that services to the people in the South Bronx. After doing that, I said, I want to do more. And I went back to school to do an MBA in healthcare system. And I found myself that every time that I was going back to school, I was going back with the intentions of giving something back, getting the knowledge, probably getting the experience, and giving something back to the community. And that's how I graduated from my MBA in healthcare system. Happens to be that after graduation, 2 years after, I was called from my school, my dental school, and they asked me if I would like to go back to school to be part of the student affairs division. And then that's how I moved from hospital dentistry after 10 years or 11 years of being in the South Bronx at Bronx Lebanon Hospital to go to what it was at that time, UMDNJ, University of Medicine and Dentistry of New Jersey. Now it's called Rutgers School of Dental Medicine, to start working with the new generation of students, right? And it was a an amazing experience, working with these students that they have in their minds, changing those smiles, that they had beautiful experiences with their pediatric dentist, and now they want to be a dentist because they were motivated and inspired to do that. And then trying to help them to accomplish those goals.
Thank you so much, Herminio. I feel you shared so much and in such a beautiful way. I want to make sure I touch on some important points just because, so much resonated with me. And I really appreciate how mission driven your whole career has been. And I feel like there's a lot of nuggets of wisdom that we can pull from it, starting with your parents saying that the biggest value was in knowledge and education, and that's something no one can take from you. I find our parents are the first educators, the first teachers, and so the values that they're able to pass down to us are so precious. And to see that you, from that cultivation, you really ran with it and discovered your passion early on. But for you to really see dentistry for both the art and the science of it, and to pursue it in from this place of just joy and love, I would say, and that even the money component was not on your radar. I also just find that so amazing because, again, when people bring up, oh, I want to become a doctor or I want to become a dentist, I would say that salary, it gets talked about, it gets brought up pretty quickly, and then those aren't your reasons. I find the community component of you going to the hospital and in South Bronx, right, and really wanting to be there for those who truly need it. Seeing that if you have like a toothache, how could you think about other things when there's like a sharp pain going on? How can you study? How can you focus at work? How can you be fully present with your child? I mean, you being able to provide them that service, even if, it comes at maybe like you could charge much, much more in another neighborhood, but choosing to be there. And then not just with like the technical side of it, but again, the dentist chair that you were talking about earlier, really saying, hey, I'm here for you, sends such an important message to the community that Herminio's in our corner, right? We can count on Herminio to really, look out for us. And I think that, when we talk about community and like giving back to the community, it's like individuals that really have, been able to like pass along and give knowledge back to the community in such meaningful ways that I don't think we really emphasize enough. Basically, I'm saying you need to be like headlines in like New York Times or something, because I think services like that, oftentimes are just kind of under the radar, but that's, from what I'm picking up, the lifeblood of like what really helps communities to get going and to really thrive with time. So one of the things that you're really focused on right now at the Rutgers School, as you said before, is this new generation of dentists, and how you've really you look at them with this sense of hope. What I can gather of they're really interested, they're really curious, and they really want to make a difference. And probably you can see parts of your own passion when you were starting off there as well. So I just find that to be very beautiful. And the question that I have, it ties back to mentorship. So when you were in dental school for the 4 years, I'm sure mentorship, or you were doing an apprenticeship, but maybe there was a particular professor that was there to help you, maybe that you connected with more. But I'm curious if you can speak a little bit more to like, what is mentorship, and was there a specific individual that helped you to really unlock your full potential and to really unleash that passion of yours?
I'm glad that you're asking that. When I think about mentorship, it is if you're being asked to mentor someone, see that as an opportunity that is to be honored and to be sacred up to a certain level. And I'm going to tell you the reason why. Because while you're doing that, you are unlocking the potentials of that individual to reach their goals. You are the agent that can do that for them, right? And sometimes what it have to take, or probably what it takes, is only one question, or probably one action, or probably something that you can provide to that individual for them to feel that their efforts are worth it. I remember one of my professors in college, microbiology professor in college, Dr. Alice Schultz. And I remember that at that time I was trying to figure it out if I should stay in Puerto Rico or trying to get into a dental school outside of Puerto Rico. Happens to be that I had the opportunity outside of Puerto Rico. And she said to me, you know what? Go ahead, do it. You don't have nothing to lose. Go ahead and explore. And just hear that from her, it was like, damn, this is amazing. She's saying that, then I'm going to do it too. Then with that, trying to put together that village, right? Because that's another thing. You're going away, you're going somewhere else. And then all of a sudden you find yourself alone, but you had to take your village with you. And then taking that village with me, a lot of friends, people that really knows who I am. They were there with me throughout the whole entire journey. Even up today, they're still with me, including that professor. Then the thing is that it is extremely important that if someone is asking you can you be my mentor? Think about it. Of course, you have to take the decision, but see that opportunity as something that is going to be sacred, something that is going to be really, really important to develop and to help that individual to reach their goals. And I'm pretty sure that individual is going to be eternally grateful that you did that for them. Then, yeah, I had that first person who did that for me. And then along the journey, I had so many other people that were able to provide me with certain knowledge, help, advice, counseling, opportunities, right? Because that's another thing. Sometimes your life is not only about one mentor, but it's so many people in that village that are going to mentor you, and it's going to take you from point A to point B. And you have to be really grateful for that. As an individual that received that, I'm extremely grateful of all those individuals that, stick with me in the good, in the bad, in the ugly. And they still part of my life. And every time that I have an opportunity or I need somebody that really knows who I am as an individual, as a person, I go back to them. Because sometimes, people, they have their profession, right? And they take their profession and they use it as their identification. Yes, I am a dentist. That's my profession. But I am not 24/7 a dentist, right? I'm a human being that have a history, has experiences, has a family, things that I would like to accomplish that not necessarily have to deal with dentistry, friends. And then the thing is that that's who you are as an individual. What you do as a profession is something that complements what are you doing every single day, but it's not necessarily who you are.
Wow. Well, it just sounds like the way you're describing just not only yourself, but the village that helped raise you is very humanistic, right? In the life to life connections. And it's so fitting that, I asked you about mentorship, and it's kind of like this seemingly like one-to-one connection, that it's powerful. It's sacred, like you said. And then it also kind of like evolves like over time. It deepens. It allows you to not only like bring the village with you wherever you go, but I was also thinking of like a well. It's like a well that you can always go back to, and it's not just about taking water out of the well. It's always about also contributing to it, so it doesn't run out, right? Or maybe digging deeper. Actually, I think that's how wells work. You have to dig deeper to really pull out the water. So it's not something to be taken lightly. That's for sure. And I find that I think, at the stage that you're at right now, where people are asking you to be their mentors, I think it's so beautiful that you really stop to think and consider that. Because while the person asking you, the dental student, might not realize the depth of the question of, will you be my mentor? Like some of them might, but I'm sure you encounter the student that's just kind of like looking to check off a box and they're like, I need someone. So Herminio, is it going to be you? But either way, right? I find the ways in which people come into our lives and where they're at, where we're at, the interesting kind of crossroads, is also very important, right? Because maybe that jolts you in a different direction, makes you think or respond differently, and years down the line, right, will be different, but hopefully, we'll be better for it. I think is the positive end of mentorship. And the work that you're doing with these young, soon to be dentists right after they finish their schooling, I love that you really emphasized that your mission there, your personal role, is to shape ethically and professionally, right, the new generation of dentists. And it's no secret that the world that these new dentists have grown up in is quite, it's fraught with a lot of issues, and there's conflict and war happening, and there's greater access to information about what's happening in all parts of the world, where it can easily overwhelm and lead to a sense of kind of maybe hopelessness. So I would like to ask, like, what are some of the conversations that you've had with students recently about not only their role as dentists, but their wider role as a global citizen?
Well, what I have to say is the following, and thank you for that question, Scott. And I'm going to put my hat as a dentist. As a dentist, I can touch a tooth. As a human being, I can touch your soul and who you are as an individual, as a human being that is coming to receive some services or to for me to provide some kind of guidance or education, right? Happens to be that I am in one of the most diverse school in the United States, located in Newark, New Jersey. Then I have students from all over the world because we have an international program. Those are dentists in their own country that they are coming here to be or to have their U.S. license. And also, I have students from every part of the United States. So important that they feel that the person that is going to be taking care of them understand them, and they feel identified in one way or another. Because at the moment that they feel that is that kind of familiar face, that kind of familiar touch, that kind of familiar even accent, even age, even gender, right? That one makes you feel that you belong to a place, right? And then those are the things that goes beyond location. Yes, it is important. I'm Puerto Rican, then I honor my culture, but also I'm open enough to see the other cultures if I'm talking about the cultures. I'm open enough to see other people in the community from the different kind of races, from the different age range, from the different interests. And I think that my students appreciate that. And then when they're coming to me, they're coming with not only the personal issues, but they're coming with academic challenges, questions about life, what are going to be their next steps, academically speaking, right? Then the thing is that, or that's the other thing, what we can do to create an impact. Yeah. Many of them, they're looking forward to know what they're going to do to create an impact. What are the new things that I can do? What is different? Can you help me to discover myself? And discover myself in a sense of what are the things that I can do that can contribute not only to the class, but also to the people outside of these four walls that is the school. Then those are things that are very interesting. And those are the conversations that I have with them at any time in the day, or I don't know. Remember, I'm with them for 4 years of their life. Then there is a point when the people are saying, "Do you have kids, Herminio?" And I say, "Yes." They say, "How many?" I have approximately 100 kids, and all of them are in dental school, because the reality is that they are my kids. And I try to do my best to provide the guidance that they need. Directly or indirectly, when we're thinking about and going back to global citizen, each one of these individuals, each one of my dental students, they represent a community. They can be Colombian, they can be from Africa, they can be from Turkey, they can be, because I have a very diverse geographically group of students. It can be from Texas, can be from Miami, can be from Cuba. Believe me, it's really diverse. In one way or another, whatever that I do for them will impact that community. And then, you know what? I have the opportunity every year with a group of other organizations to go to Dominican Republic to provide services to a community in the sugarcane fields. An amazing, beautiful community. I have been doing that for 9 years. Next year is going to be year number 10, and I'm looking forward to celebrate that big. And you know what? Taking these students to do that with me makes a big impact, because they learn that whatever that you take for granted here is not taken for granted for other people. That's number one. Number two, that you're going to learn to be with that individual in a humanistic aspect. What are their needs? How can I help them? And once again, you're going to use your knowledge as a resource. And then that will bring happiness to you. The same thing. There are things that you cannot count. Whatever that you cannot count is the thing that is really valuable. And sometimes these kids, when I say kids, my students, they're going in there and just hug, or let me teach you how to brush your teeth. Something so simple like that, that we consider simple. Not everybody have the opportunity to have a toothbrush. Not everybody have the opportunity to learn from someone, from a dentist or from a dental student, how to brush their teeth. And once again, even though that I am just guiding one individual from one specific area in the world in one way or another, I am impacting that community. As an educator, giving them probably the technique to do something effective or doing some kind of procedure more efficient, they're going to take that with them. And at the end, when they're practicing with a collection of what? Of experiences from other dentists that touch their academic life, what they were in dental school. Then that is apprenticeship from the little to the big. And how that apprenticeship that you are providing to these students can impact a community from a local to a global aspect.
Wow. Thank you so much, Herminio. There's so much for me to comment on about that. It's truly this kind of humanistic education that you're describing about bringing your students to your kids to such a special place, such special community. It's in the Dominican Republic, you said?
Yes.
And I love the way you spoke about how, it's really the perspective that you bring is so important, to expand that, to not take things for granted, and to truly listen to a community, to that individual in front of you, and understand what is it that this person needs, and then to be able to bring forth the right knowledge to offer that up in the spirit of not like transaction, but truly like, I want your life to be better. I want you to be happy. I want you to smile. I want you to have good oral, hygiene and all that stuff. And I think that, the talking about the value that we place on things, being able to have a moment like that, I don't think you can quantify, and I don't think it's meant to be quantified. And again, it just goes back to what a real education should be. I find that yes, there's the component of, curriculum and leading to knowledge, acquiring that. But I think in the application of it, understanding the embeddedness of each person within their community, and what their current needs are, and what their hopes and, their dreams are as well. Having the wisdom to navigate all of that, and then be able to convey that, to deliver it in the right way. I mean, that makes all the difference in the world. That actually brings us back to the mentorship piece of someone who truly knows who you are, asking the right question at the right time. That's it. It's not going to be, long lecture, or repeated meetings. Sometimes it's just one encounter is enough to break the dam and let all the water kind of flow forth. And I think, what you're doing with your students is truly cultivating them as global citizens, whether they're, in the Dominican Republic, doing this amazing, program that you've been doing for nearly 10 years. But I also like how it's very much a feature of the education they're receiving at the dentist school as well, right? Because of the culture that they bring. So would you say that a lot of these students have already come in with a somewhat grounded understanding of the culture that they come from? Or do you think that some of the conversations are still kind of like helping them uncover that and honor that a little bit more amidst the diversity that they find themselves around?
And thank you for that question too, because one of the things that my goal, not only to shape that individual as an ethical and professional dentist, but also for them to get to know themselves. At the moment that you know who you are, there is a big probability that you're going to be a good leader, right? And then the thing is that for me, it's so important that they know what are their core values. Because let me tell you something. I do not walk around putting my fingers in everybody's mouth. because that is one of the most private areas in the human being, believe it or not. And then the thing is that you need to understand that there is a level of trust from the community, but also you need to understand yourself or who you are as an individual to honor that, right? And then not only that, but also to honor what is the ethical aspect of the profession that is going to be that autonomy of the patient, that area of justice, treat everybody equally, right? With the equality and the equity that they need. The other thing is like to be truthful. But the only way that you can do all of that is knowing who you are, right? If you're a person that you are really aware of your biases, then the probability are that you are going to be a more fair individual because you know that you have some biases like everybody else, and then you're going to start working on that. At the moment that you think about how important is that patient autonomy and how important is to be truthful to that individual, then the better that you're going to be equipped to guess what? To guide a group of individuals toward a common goal. Then the thing is that for me, it's so important that they start discovering themselves, who they are as an individual. And then from there, let's going to talk. Are you a person that you really feel that you're a servant leader? If you are the kind of person that you really want to serve a community or you want to serve yourself, if you're an individual that you really wants to transform what is going to be the actual future of oral health education, right? And then I start asking questions about who would you like to be? Who you are? What are your principles? And that for me is really important because the more that you are connected with your core values and your principle, the more humanistic you're going to be. The
I
more
100%
ethical you're
agree.
going to be.
Wow. Thank you so much for really unpacking that and emphasizing the importance of knowing oneself, engaging in a process of self-reflection that is ongoing, right? It never fully finishes, but I think what you're speaking to in terms of the core values, what anchors you, putting in the work of like knowing what your own hidden biases are, having the humility to sometimes be called out, right? Maybe in trust with friends about where you're at, and I think all of that goes down to what good leadership and like humanistic leadership should be. So I wanted to ask one other question, and it goes to what you spoke about with being a dentist. And you said it was cliche, right? But it's like to change the world one smile at a time. So what does it mean like to say like to change one smile? I mean, to change the world one smile at a time. I just kind of want to know what's in a smile according to a humanistic leader and dentist and global citizen like yourself.
Wow, this question is going to now you're making me think really deep on this. And I'm going to tell you this. A smile is confidence. A smile is past historical traumas. A smile is even environmental changes. A smile is something that comes from really deep inside of you, right? If I'm going to say that is much more than which is important, sometimes there are systemic conditions that are reflected, or you can see it in the patient's mouth. But stress, social disturbances, political climate, environmental changes, I don't know if I mentioned it already, all of that can be reflected in what we consider a smile. Then I think that it's important that when you see a smile, what you're going to see is the whole history of that individual and probably past generations that individual represent. And that's in reality what is a smile. And the thing is that it's unique, right? It's unique because you're gonna say, like, really, Herminio? Now the smile is a representation of everything from the traumas to the beautiful parts of their life to historical aspect. Yes, it's all of that. It's all of that. And I think that is so important to have clinicians, oral health clinicians, that are able to see that. They're able to see that and to take that individual to a better smile. Right?
Wow. That is the best definition and explanation of a smile I've ever heard. Yeah. And I don't know if it's necessarily a smile is like a window into all that you just shared, or more of like, I don't know, is a portal? I mean, how deep are we going with all of this? But I do think though that, like, so much of we can tell so much about another person based on their smile. And I think, again, it's going back to, like, not taking things for granted, even like what it means to see someone smile, or for ourselves to offer up a smile. I find that it comes as, a gift, a kind gesture that we can, provide cost-free for others, walking down the street, in our places of work, in the schools that we go to, family gatherings. But, I don't think people realize just how powerful smiles can be, and the confidence that comes with being able to initiate that, I think it's something we need to really think more about and take action. And I really appreciate you, Herminio. This has been such a lovely conversation, and I've learned so much more about dentistry, and so much more. I have so much more admiration for the work of dentists like yourself and all of your kids at the school who are going to become phenomenal dentists, no doubt in my mind. Wanted to ask you one last question as we're approaching the end of our conversation. Do you have any book or movie recommendations for the listeners?
Wow. But before I answer that question, well, while we were talking about what is a smile, I came up with this definition, and I wrote it down here on this piece of paper. A smile is a blueprint of who you are as a human with history. And I think that that's what is a smile. Then every time, and I want to say that not only to you, but the whole entire audience that you have in this amazing podcast, every time that you see an individual and you look at their smile, don't forget all the past histories that person has within that smile. If I'm going to recommend the book, recently as I mentioned, that I did a doctoral degree in education with leadership and innovation component. I had the opportunity to write a chapter to an amazing book titled Trinity of Leadership: Learners, Thinkers, and Thinkers. And in there, I am one of the thinkers. Then the chapter was about thinking, the power of thinking. If anybody has the opportunity to read that, that will be amazing. Because in there you will see that you as an individual, that we are trying to take leadership from leadership to a humanistic aspect, or bring humanistic aspect into leadership. People are not alone in that quest, right? That would be my first recommendation. My second recommendation of books would be, this is going to be very interesting. The Power of Positive Thinking by Norman Vincent Peale. And with that book, what I learned is how you can use the power of words to create your future. And I think that sometimes we as an individuals, that we are living right now in a world that is really isolated. Even so many people, but people feel lonely. Then why not to start thinking about how to use words in a way that you can connect with people and you can create a positive environment around yourself, right? And I think that those are the two books that I would recommend. Number one, Trinity of Leadership, Learners, Thinkers, and Thinkers. And the other one is The Power of Positive Thinking by Norman Vincent Peale.
Amazing. Thank you so much for those two book recommendations. And they very much relate to one another, right?
Yes.
Both in the thinker component of the book chapter that you contributed, as well as understanding we start from the positive thinking to the actual words that then come out of our mouth. And so fitting for a dentist to speak about the importance of using one's mouth, right? Not just the smile, but then also the words that then come from there. I think all of it ties into the same source of confidence, the same anchoring of self-knowledge and core values. And I think all of it is just fueled by the mission that you have. And I think this is a great point to finish our conversation on. But I did want to, give you the last word. If you have any final thoughts, any final reflections you'd like to share with the listeners.
First, I want to say thank you for inviting me to your podcast and to be here with you, right? And talking about my journey. But also, I just want to bring this message to your audience. And the message that I want to bring is that anytime that you think that all the doors in your house are closed, think about how many windows you left open. And then when you identify that window that it was open, take a look through it. And you will see something that will give you, I hope, hopes, and will give you a sense of fulfillment and happiness.